on behalf of the Boston Police Department, the mayor's office, and the entire city of Boston, I want to say to Mr. Swanson and Mr. Bennett, the entire Bennett family, and Boston's entire Black community, I am so sorry for what you endured. I am so sorry for the pain that you have carried for so many years. What was done to you was unjust, unfair, racist, and wrong to every Black resident. I am sorry not only for the abuse our city enacted, but for the beliefs and the bias that brought them to bear in the first place. There is no world in which a piece of paper undoes the harm of this part of our history. But it is my hope and the hope of our entire administration that you might accept this letter of apology as a small step toward accountability for the damage done by our city.
First, I want to say I'm humbled, and it's an honor, and I'm grateful to have this support. This is the first panel of Black folks I've had the support of since I've been out. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. My story is one of many. You know, mine is heard, and there's many more stories exactly like mine that hasn't been heard. I want to be the voice of the ones that hasn't been heard, you know, with this platform. What happened to me can't be, you know, what happened can't be, what was done can't be undone. We all know that. But everything in the universe must be accounted for. You know, it's a grain of sand in the whole universe. It must be accounted for. So what they did, you know, there's accountability, you know, but justice, that's something that God dispenses. You know, what I've been looking for the last 30 years is mercy. It was not to be found in this Oklahoma, you know, judicial system. You know, I'm good right now, though. I'm real good. I'm real happy. I would like to say I'm the happiest man on the planet. You know, at the end of my life, I'm living my best life. You know, and it's all good for me right now. Yeah, it's a fight. It's a fight to go on, and you know, it's what I'm built for, though, to fight. You know, so we ready. I just turned 21 in November of '74. And in January, I came to Oklahoma to live with my aunt. She had just left from Christmas vacation in New Orleans. That's where I'm from, New Orleans. I came back to Oklahoma. 30 days later, I was arrested for a crime that happened in a place that I had never been to. You know, hadn't been to it like 4 months ago that I went to that place that where the crime, where they said I killed somebody. But anyway, they arrested me on a bogus robbery charge. And the people that got robbed came down and said that they'd never seen me before. So while I was sitting in jail waiting to leave, a detective told me, we need you to participate in the lineup. I didn't, like I said, I had no experience with the judicial system. I had no previous convictions, adult or juvenile. I had no previous arrests except for disturbing the peace in a protest march. So when they told me to participate in the lineup, I'm doing like I was taught to do, obey the authorities, obey the police. And I didn't know nothing about the right to a counsel or the right to refuse, you know, right to remain silent. I didn't know nothing about it. I was young and naive, and I was the ideal target. So they put me in the lineup and come back and told me that this lady picked me out of a lineup on a murder case. Yeah. Yeah, I was still believing in justice. I was still believing in the law. And I'm thinking it's just a simple mistake. It'll be corrected soon, you know, and soon turn into later and years and years and years and decades, you know, and it never did. But what I come to find out later was that it was my innocence that was my burden. You know, if I had been guilty, it would have been a luxury, because I've done time with guys that entered guilty pleas for rape, robbery, murder, all kind of atrocious crimes. And they do a set number of years and go before the parole board and they say, I feel remorse for what I've done. I take responsibility for my actions. And they let them go. 6 to 18 months later, those same guys come back over and over again. But every year for 30, 40 years, I went up for the parole board and say, I'm innocent. I didn't do it. And so they would never give me parole. And so my innocence was my burden. Nobody had done 48 years, 5 months and 13 days, even for crimes that they admitted to, you know? And that's why I stayed in so long, because nobody didn't want to admit to guilt. Nobody didn't want to listen to it. my auntie and I hired an attorney, a black guy named Henry Floyd, friend of my auntie, drinking buddy, whatever, but he came in to represent me in 1975. This guy got a law degree because of affirmative action. They need so many black folks in this corporation, or black folks, how they was doing back then, trying to do the racial balance thing. He was more afraid than I was, and I was the one facing the death penalty. He was so afraid of offending them white folks, in that jury room, So I didn't have no representation, legal representation. He was a poor imitation of an attorney, really. Years later, I found out that he had been reprimanded, suspended, disbarred 2 or 3 times and reinstated to keep doing it again and again. And now they didn't have no case, but the worst thing is I didn't have no representation. I've been hiring lawyers for 40 years. I mean, wow. I had so many lawyers on this case, and I'm an 8th grade dropout. But during my stint on death row, when you're in them kind of situations, you're forced to be your best expression of yourself. And so I learned to read and I learned to write.
Good.
And I learned the law. Being on death row every day, waiting to die, the electric chair it was real. I mean, they rewired the doggone thing and measured our head because they thought they had us dead, right? You had to come to terms with that, and you had to do it quickly. So, yeah, I come off of death row, a very young guy with old soul, old head, old wisdom,
Glynn Simmons served 48 years for a murder he did not commit.
This year, a judge tossed out Simmons' murder conviction. Today, Simmons was back in an Oklahoma County courtroom asking the judge to declare him innocent of the 1974 Edmond liquor store murder.
And that is exactly what Judge Amy Palumbo did.
What's been done can't be undone, but there can be accountability, and that's what I'm about right now, accountability.
Oklahoma state law limits his compensation to $175,000.
I mean, I got this attitude of gratitude. I don't call it miscarriage of justice. I call it attempted murder. But let me say this one time. We always talk about no justice, no peace. It's a beautiful slogan. Justice comes from God. You can't make this just after 48 years, no matter what you do. Justice comes from God. All we can seek is mercy. That the law of mercy triumphs the law of justice. Wasn't no justice to be done after all of that time. After that experience, what did it look like? How do you give me justice? What do that look like? In prison, you meet some of the best people and you meet some of the worst people. The best people I met was in prison. The worst people I met was in prison. Prison do things to you. It does. That kind of incarceration, that kind of confinement. It take you one way or the other. You're going down or you're going up. Me, I went down, down, down. I went to the bottom of the pit and came out to the other side, The Pastor T.D. Jakes got this book out. You ever heard about the crushing? The grape is the only fruit that was grown deliberately to be crushed. And in its natural state, it might last 2-3, weeks, a month or so. But once you go through the crushing, you'll last 200 years. You become fine wine, And so we got, I've been through the crushing. And I'm mellow now. I'm good. At the end of my life, I'm living my best life. In July, they exonerated me, and I was known as an exoneree. I didn't feel satisfied. I couldn't settle for that because I wasn't. To be exonerated is we letting you slide. We can't find you guilty, but we gonna let you slide. I'm like, no, you got to declare me actually innocent because that's what I am. And so I filed an appeal for the judge to change the order from exoneration to actual innocent. And she seen the point I was making, and she, called us back and gave me a declaration of actual innocence, first in Oklahoma history. I'm planning on launching my my nonprofit. I got this nonprofit that I'm setting up, Grace Redemption Salvation. Formula for reintegration. This for the brothers that's coming out,
Yes.
My objective is to curtail recidivism. I can't catch them from the front end, putting them in, so I leave that to the lawyers. But coming out, I had a lot of brothers came out of prison with degrees and good intentions and everything, and they wind up coming back. And the recidivism rate shows that if it's 100 guys getting out today, within 6 to 18 months, at least 70 of them will be back. And
Mm.
this statistics have stood steady for over 30 or 40 years. So when
Wow.
numbers stay that steady, it got to be somebody got their hands on the scale. This recidivism thing has become an economic situation. I hope to heard some people talking about legislation, the Glynn Simmons Act, and I was like, what would I contribute to the Glynn Simmons Act? We're a nation of laws. Nothing happened except for about the laws. We stayed in slavery 300 and something years, not because a gun to our head or the slave master was brutally holding us down. It was because of legislation, and they kept passing legislation for 300 years that would keep us in slavery. That's the same system that kept me in for 48 years. So, I could forgive the people, but the system needs dismantling. So my thing is, I gave notice 25 years ago about my innocence, and I got all the documents and everything to prove it. But I was barred from hearing the merits of my case because of some procedural default. I was actually innocent. The parole board, the commutation board, the pardon board, all these are entities of mercy, but they're trying to dispense justice where they're supposed to be doing mercy. These things this is what I'm trying to change. We shouldn't have to work. We shouldn't have to wait 30 years, to get your innocence hurt, But I was held back because of the procedural defaults, what they call res judicata and latches, meaning that I should have brought up the issue before, or I didn't preserve the right to challenge it now, because I waited too long, all that kind of, and I'm innocent. And so these procedural defaults prevented every one of them judges and every one of the magistrates that I done filed all these posts, they prevented them from looking at the merits of my case. And they kept denying me, not because of lack of merits, but lack of procedural, process. These things need to be changed. So my thing is to try to affect the legislative acts. I stayed in 48 years, and each year I was in prison, they was giving me 2 or 3 days earned credit. Right? That means if I do 1 year, I get 3 years. You see what I'm saying? If I do 1 year, and this is by the legislative lady, they say earn credits. They didn't say good time or work time. They say earn. And you can't take something for me that I earn without due process. I'm going to fight you all day long, if you're trying to, deprive me of what I earn. And so these legislative processes and stuff, and I've been arguing how many years is life? I done 48, and you gave me, 3 times that much. So I done 144 years. If I had 144 years sentence, I would have flat timed it, out of discharge. So tell me how many years is life? It's an indeterminate number because nobody can't put no number on it. Oklahoma outlawed indeterminate sentences 20 years ago. You see, so what they had me doing was debt by incarceration, but they won't put no name on it. I wasn't doing a life sentence. I was doing debt by incarceration. So they took it away from debt by execution when they outlawed the death penalty, but they still had me under the death penalty with debt by incarceration because they had no intention to never let me out. So these are the kind of things in the future that I want to change and bring light to, things that right before our eyes and we don't see how they work, Didn't have a dime. I came out absolutely broke. Well, I started trying to decipher what the Messiah was talking about when he said, "Why I marvel at the things I do when you can do even greater." Now, I had been hearing this all my life. A couple of years ago, I had an anxiety attack, and it just got to be way too overwhelming for me. But out of that anxiety attack came this revelation of Christ. And it wasn't just something you quote. He was giving us the power. He said, "Why marvel?" And he was talking to his disciples. Check this out, Pastor. He was talking to his disciples who been sitting there watching him heal the lame, make the blind see, walk the waters, feel the wind. He even said that he raised the dead. He's doing all these things, and he tell these guys, he say, "Why marvel at the things I do when you can do even greater?" He didn't say the blacks could do it, or the whites could do it, or the rich, or the poor, or the Muslims, or the Christians. He said, "You can do it." And so I was bound and determined to find out what is he talking about. Everybody's saying they believe in Christ. You know what I'm saying? But they don't ever figure out what it is. He's talking about a practical thing that you can do. And it's a process. And the process starts with belief. That's the first step of the process. Ain't no instant healing. You know what I'm saying? They don't tell us about the process, but he gave it to us. He gave us the power. Jesus is not coming back to help you. He gave you the power to help yourself. You know what I'm saying? He said, you can do it. So I started doing this. I started doing this manifestation thing, right? Turning all the powers in the universe into my favor, right? And it started working. That belief that I had, like a caterpillar and a butterfly, that belief turned into faith, and faith like that butterfly. Now this is like 8-9 step process. About 6 months before I was released from prison, I had already got to the stage, but part of the process where you're speaking it. You ain't just believing it. You're just acting. You're speaking it, right? And I'm like, my name is Glynn Simmons. I'm a free man. Every time somebody says something, and they said that guy finally lost his mind. I was in cell 112, and the very next day, I'm sitting in sitting in Pearl's restaurant eating a po' boy sandwich. I came out of prison with stage 4 liver cancer. It was 27 when I got out. Today it's down to 2. I done raised enough money since I've been out from the charitable donation of people like y'all. State ain't give me a dime. Ain't say the word. So I'm good thanks to the generous donations of people. I would like to tell the young brothers that you're much better than the worst thing you ever done. There's a definite reason why young black males is under attack. There's a definite reason for it. We represent something that's real threatening. When left into our own, we know the story about Black Wall Street in Tulsa.
Yeah.
We know what happened when you leave us into our own, when you call yourself segregating us and we get together and do our own thing. We know what comes out of that. 35 years after slavery, we done built, a city. We building it up. Let us ride for 100 years, and we own this thing.
Yeah.
So it's a plan why they try to keep us hating each other, not liking each other. Let me say this. Let me leave you with this here. Read this book called The ISIS Paper by Dr.
Francis Cress Welsing.
Francis Cress, God bless her soul. It's called The Keys to the Colors. Well, her mentor was Dr. Neely Fuller, and she got a quote in her book about Dr. Neely Fuller, and what he says is this. He says, until you understand white supremacy, not only what it is, but mainly how it works, everything else you think you understand going to confuse you. And we got to know how it works, how it really, really works. We attack this stuff when we fight it, but we don't really know how it works. Let me say this, Pastor, and this ain't got nothing to do with the guys who are doing the real Jesus work, the liberation work. But the clergy has been complicit in a lot of this stuff because of the silence. Silence is complicit, it's complicity. When we start this fight, this thing was established, this social construct that we live up under, we call racism and white supremacy. It was established with a whole lot of bloodshed, a whole lot of tears and bloodshed from all melanated people. It's not going to be discounted without bloodshed.
Hello.
Understand this.
That's right.
When we get to
what is that saying that you had? You said you're much better than your worst. What was that?
You're much better than the worst thing you ever done.
That's right.
Happening in here. It had to happen right here. The revolution.
Yeah.
The prophet said, never will God change the condition of the people until the people first change the condition of their hearts and minds. And our people won't change, and we're going to constantly catch this hell until we change our thought pattern. Everything in the universe, there's a pattern. The sun, the moon, the stars, the blood in your vein, it all works on a pattern. Your thoughts, you got a thought pattern. And the way we think is on a certain pattern, we got to change the way we think and the way we approach things, the way we look at things. That's how I got out of prison. I didn't get out of prison because I was so strong and stayed down. I got out of prison because I changed the way I was looking at the manifestation of Christ. I changed the whole pattern how I was looking at it. And I looked up and I was free. This is what we got to do. We got to change not only what we think, but how we think.